Season 1 of the Umbrella Academy opens in 1989, where 43 random women around the world give birth, having not shown any signs of pregnancy until going into labor. Eccentric billionaire Sir Reginald Hargreeves adopts 7 of those babies, and upon discovering they each have their own unique superpowers, trains them and creates the superhero team known as the Umbrella Academy. Reginald calls them each by an assigned number based on their level of usefulness to him, but their android mother Grace gives them actual names. There was number 1 Luther, who grows up to be an astronaut with super strength. After suffering critical injuries on a mission, Reginald injected him with the serum that saved his life, but gave him an ape-like torso. Number 2 is Diego, whose telekinetic abilities allow him to curve the trajectory of items like knives or bullets. Number 3 is Allison, an actress who can control other people's minds by using the phrase "I heard a rumor," and had also secretly developed a forbidden love with Luther. After using her powers to make her young daughter Claire behave, Allison's husband Patrick divorces her and wins full custody of their daughter. Number 4 is Klaus, a drug addict who can communicate with the dead. Number 5 is Nameless, as he has the ability to jump through space and time and was lost in the future before being given a proper name. Number 6 is Ben, who has the ability to summon otherworldly tentacles from his body. And number 7 is Vanya, who grows up to be a meek violinist who is alienated from her adoptive siblings for having no apparent powers. Unbeknownst to Vanya, Reginald Hargreeves prescribed her pills that suppressed her powers. As the group grew older, they began to grow apart. The death of Ben while out on a mission further fractured the group, and eventually they disbanded and went their separate ways. In the present, the siblings return home and reunite following the death of Reginald. At home, they are greeted by their android mother Grace, and Reginald's intelligent chimpanzee friend and assistant Pogo. Although the coroner stated Reginald's death was due to heart failure, the children believe he was murdered. Number 5 then teleports to the present, telling his siblings he had been lost in the future, is now 58 years old, and has been transferred back to his 13-year-old body. Oh, and he has secretly come back to prevent an apocalyptic event that will happen in 8 days. 5's only lead is a prosthetic eye he found in the future, knowing its owner was responsible for the apocalypse. As he tries to uncover and stop whoever was responsible, 5 is also pursued by agents Cha-Cha and Hazel, a pair of time-traveling assassins who work for the Commission. The Commission's purpose is to ensure that no one messes with the timeline, meaning if the apocalypse was supposed to happen, 5 couldn't be allowed to interfere. As Cha-Cha and Hazel attack the Academy and kidnap Klaus, Klaus escapes and steals the Commission's time-traveling briefcase. Klaus accidentally travels back in time to the Vietnam War, where he meets and falls in love with a soldier named Dave. Following Dave's death in the war, Klaus returns to the present and destroys the briefcase. Having been attacked by time-traveling hitmen and learning of Klaus's journey to the past, the Hargreaves finally confront their time-traveling brother for answers. 5 reveals that when he first traveled to the future as a child, it was to an apocalyptic wasteland where most of the world's population, including the Academy, were killed. 5 lived in the wasteland for 40 years, completely alone, aside from a mannequin he named Dolores. Eventually, he was recruited by the mysterious handler to work for the Commission, traveling to various points in time to commit assassinations. Throughout his time working for the Commission, he was secretly trying to uncover the origins of the apocalypse and make his way back to his original timeline to prevent it from happening. In the present, 5 successfully rallies his siblings together to try to stop the apocalypse. Klaus uses his powers to speak with the deceased Reginald, who reveals that he orchestrated his own death in order to bring the Umbrella Academy back together. Meanwhile, Vanya is continuing to live her normal life. She begins teaching a new violin student, Leonard, and the two grow close. Leonard encourages Vanya to audition for the first chair position in her orchestra, which she succeeds in getting. Unbeknownst to Vanya, that first chair position only became available after Leonard murdered its previous violinist. Feeling fulfilled in her career and relationship, Vanya stops taking the pills Reginald prescribed her as a child and begins exhibiting her own powers. Vanya has the power to control sound, using it for telekinesis, flight, force fields, and more. Leonard and Vanya discover in Reginald's diary that he had tried to suppress her powers after they proved too dangerous, killing several nannies, which led to Reginald creating Grace the android. When Vanya and Leonard are harassed by a group of thugs, Vanya's powers erupt, killing the thugs and injuring Leonard, who loses his right eye. And now 5 realizes that Leonard is somehow the man responsible for the upcoming apocalypse. Leonard had been born on the same day as the Hargreaves siblings in 1989 via a normal pregnancy, but his mother died during childbirth. Leonard grew up to idolize the Umbrella Academy and went to Reginald in the hopes of joining them. Reginald rejected Leonard, telling him he wasn't special. And so, years later, a bitter Leonard inserted himself into Vanya's life with the goal to manipulate her into discovering her powers and using them against her siblings. Allison manages to find Vanya and tries to warn her about Leonard's true motives, but when Vanya asks about her past, Allison confesses to using her rumor abilities to make Vanya forget that she ever even had powers. Enraged, Vanya slits Allison's throat and escapes with Leonard. Vanya is racked with guilt over what she did to Allison, and upon discovering that Leonard had in fact been manipulating her, she kills him in a fit of rage. The other Hargreaves siblings arrive and save Allison, although she has lost the ability to speak. When Five discovers that Leonard was killed, he presumes this means that the apocalypse had been prevented. Vanya returns home to apologize for attacking Allison, but an angry Luther rejects her. Feeling betrayed and heartbroken by her siblings, Vanya uses her powers to destroy the Hargreaves mansion, remembering all of the time she was made to feel lesser than her siblings. Pogo tries to calm her down, but Vanya kills him for his complicity in suppressing her powers. As the mansion collapses, Grace is killed, but Klaus is able to physically manifest his deceased brother Ben, who helps his siblings escape. Five then realizes that he was wrong about Leonard being the cause of the apocalypse, and that it was actually Vanya. With Vanya being the source of the apocalypse, the handler assigns Cha-Cha and Hazel to protect her. Hazel has become disillusioned with his life as a hitman and turns on Cha-Cha, then shoots the handler so that he and his new girlfriend Agnes can run off to be together. Meanwhile, the Hargreaves arrive at Vanya's violin concert to confront her. While the brothers think the only way to stop her is to kill her, Allison thinks Vanya can still be reasoned with. As the brothers attack Vanya, she uses her powers to stop them and drain their energy. While Vanya is distracted, Allison takes the opportunity to hold her at gunpoint. Instead of shooting Vanya, she fires her gun next to Vanya's ear. This breaks Vanya's hold on her siblings, causing her to collapse as a beam of energy erupts from her and destroys the moon. Fragments from the moon begin to fall to the earth, causing the apocalypse. Five proposes that he uses his powers to teleport all of his siblings with him to the past so that they could once again attempt to stop the apocalypse. As the world is destroyed, Hazel and Agnes use a briefcase to get to safety, Cha-Cha is killed, and the Umbrella Academy, Vanya included, are teleported to the past. In Season 2 of the Umbrella Academy, we learn that Five's plan to travel back in time with his siblings in order to prevent the apocalypse doesn't quite go as planned. The Hargreaves children are randomly teleported to different points in time between 1960 and 1963. Klaus is transported to 1960, where he becomes the leader of a spiritual cult, using his powers to keep his deceased brother Ben by his side. Allison is transported back to 1961, where she regains her voice, joins the civil rights movement, and marries an activist named Raymond. Luther is transported to 1962, where he becomes an underground fighter and bodyguard for the gangster Jack Ruby. Diego is transported to September 1963, where he is locked up in a mental hospital after trying to warn the world of President John F. Kennedy's imminent assassination. Vanya is transported to October 1963, where she is hit by a car and loses her memories. She's taken in by the family who hit her, Sissy and Carl Cooper, alongside their young son Harlan. And then there's Five, who is transported to November 25th, 1963, where everything has devolved into pure chaos. The world is mere minutes from a nuclear doomsday, and Five siblings are all there, fighting Soviet soldiers. An elderly Hazel arrives to warn Five that this was another apocalypse that the Academy would need to stop. But before he can explain more, three assassins known as the Swedes kill him. Five manages to travel 10 days back in time, giving him a very short amount of time to reunite his siblings and figure out how to prevent a new apocalypse. But reuniting the Hargreaves siblings is much easier said than done. Vanya, still suffering from amnesia, is content living her new life with the Cooper family. She and Sissy enter into a secret love affair, while Vanya also grows close and protective over the young Harlan. When Harlan nearly drowns in a lake, Vanya saves his life. While giving the boy CPR, some of Vanya's powers somehow transfer over to Harlan, giving him powers of his own. The Hargreaves siblings try to remind Vanya of who she is, but she decides to stay with the Coopers instead. Klaus reunites with his long-lost love Dave and tries to prevent him from going to war, which Klaus knows will lead to his death. Ultimately, Dave joins the army, and a depressed Klaus returns to his siblings. While locked up in the mental hospital, Diego befriends a fellow patient named Lila, who helps him escape. As Diego tries to stop the JFK assassination and prevent the upcoming apocalypse alongside Five, he and Lila develop romantic feelings for each other. Unfortunately, Diego is unaware that Lila works for the Commission and is actually the secret adopted daughter of the Handler, who is still very much alive. The Handler instructs Lila to remain close to Diego and protect Five at all costs. As the siblings begin to come together to prevent the apocalypse, they also run into the past version of their late adoptive father, Sir Reginald Hargreeves. They discover that Reginald was a member of the Majestic 12, a secret shadow government that controlled the United States, who were somehow involved in JFK's assassination plot. Believing that saving JFK is the key to preventing the apocalypse, the Academy makes it their mission to stop their father. The Handler arrives to make a different deal to the Academy. She has been demoted in the Commission, so if Five agrees to assassinate the Commission's board, she will give them a briefcase to travel back to the non-apocalyptic 2019. Five agrees to the deal, killing the board and making the Handler head of the Commission. Unfortunately, Five only has 90 minutes to gather his siblings together to time travel. While Allison and Raymond attempt to reach the others, they are confronted by the Swedes. Allison uses her powers to defeat them and flee with her husband. Things don't work out quite as well for Vanya. She convinces Sissy to take Harlan and leave Carl behind, traveling with her to the future. But Carl calls the police, who show up and apprehend Vanya. With Vanya under arrest, the briefcase's timer runs out and the Academy are stuck in the past. Because Vanya can speak Russian, the 1960s police officers believe that she must have ties with the KGB and turn her over to the FBI, where she is drugged and interrogated. This torture makes Vanya start to remember her past and lose control of her powers. Meanwhile, Lila kidnaps Diego and takes him to the Commission, trying to convince him to join so that they could continue being together. While at the Commission headquarters, Diego is saved by a kindly analyst named Herb, who shows him the cause of the apocalypse. Vanya will destroy an FBI building, and in turn, JFK will be saved. The Soviets will be blamed for the attack, leading to World War III. Herb helps Diego escape in order to stop Vanya and save the world. Diego reunites with the Academy, who race to stop Vanya. With her powers out of control, none of the siblings are able to reach her, except the ghostly Ben, who enters her mind. Ben manages to calm Vanya, preventing her from exploding the FBI building, which in turn stops the apocalypse. Having saved the world, Ben's spirit finally enters the afterlife. Because Vanya's explosion was prevented, historical events happen as they should, resulting in JFK's assassination. Reginald visits Majestic 12, revealing that not only had he not been a part of the assassination plans, but he had also been trying to stop it. Furious, he reveals himself to be an interdimensional being and kills the other Majestic 12 members. Meanwhile, Vanya senses that Harlan is in trouble, and her siblings, finally united, travel with her to the Cooper farm to investigate. As a scared Harlan loses control of his powers, Vanya helps him calm down. Unfortunately, that's when the Handler arrives, with Lila and an army of Commission agents by her side. Vanya uses her powers to kill all of the Commission agents, but the Handler and Lila survive. It's then revealed that Lila is another superpowered baby born on October 1st, 1989, and her superpowers allowed her to mirror the powers of others. Lila fights the Academy, using their own powers against them. Unbeknownst to Lila, the Handler had ordered for her parents to be killed so that the Handler could adopt her and manipulate her into using her powers. And now the Handler wanted to take Harlan to add another superpowered weapon to her arsenal. The Academy manages to show Lila that the Handler is just manipulating her and offers to take her in and love her as a member of the Hargreeves family. But that moment of revelation is abruptly ended when the Handler arrives and shoots everyone dead. Before succumbing to his injuries, Five manages to travel back in time by a few minutes to save his siblings. And that's when the last surviving Swede, Axel, arrives and murders the Handler, blaming her for setting in motion the events that killed his brothers. In the aftermath, Herb, the newly appointed head of the Commission, arrives with a briefcase to give to the Academy, which would allow them to travel back to 2019. Lila decides to take her own briefcase and run, leaving Diego heartbroken. Raymond decides to stay behind to continue his fight for the civil rights movement. And Vanya and Sissy end their relationship, as Vanya's life in the Academy is too dangerous to involve a young child. And so the Umbrella Academy returns to 2019, having successfully prevented the apocalypse. As they enter their childhood home, the siblings realize that they might be in 2019, but it wasn't their 2019. A still alive Reginald greets them, but reveals that in this timeline he adopted a different set of supernatural children and formed a group known as the Sparrow Academy. As the Umbrella Academy look up at the Sparrows, they only recognize one familiar face, the very much alive Ben, who has no idea who they are. In Season 3 of the Umbrella Academy, the alternate timeline Reginald Hargreeves has adopted a different set of siblings to make up his Sparrow Academy. This group includes Marcus, with super strength similar to Luther, Faye, who can manifest and control crows, Alfonso, who can't hurt others by hurting himself, Sloane, who can manipulate gravity, Jamie, who can induce hallucinations in her targets, Christopher, a giant floating cube that can control lightning, and the alive and well Ben, who retains his tentacle powers from the original timeline. The Umbrella Academy fight the Sparrows but are overpowered and forced to flee, taking shelter in Hotel Obsidian. As they try to devise a plan to return to their original timeline, Klaus and Five discover that all of the Umbrella Academy siblings' mothers have somehow died before their births in this universe, creating a time paradox. This paradox has created a powerful anomaly known as a Kugelblitz, which consumes Marcus as it grows in power and danger. As the Umbrella Academy searches for a way home, Vanya learns of Sissy's death in the past, sending her on a journey of self-discovery, coming out as a transgender man and changing his name to Victor. Allison discovers that her daughter Claire no longer exists in this timeline, devastating her and causing her to act more erratically, desperate to restore the original timeline. Throughout countless antagonistic run-ins with the Sparrows, Luther and Sloane develop star-crossed romantic feelings for each other, but are forced to keep their relationship a secret. Realizing Luther and Sloane's closeness, Ben tries to convince Luther to abandon the Umbrella Academy and join the Sparrows to replace Marcus. Lila travels to the alternate future to reunite with Diego, revealing that many years have passed for her and that she and Diego now have a son named Stan. Diego makes a great effort to bond with Stan and become the type of father that Reginald never was for him. As Klaus bonds with his new nephew, Stan accidentally kills him, sending Klaus to the afterlife. Klaus learns that he has died over 50 times and is resurrected due to being immortal. As Lila and Diego parents stand together, they rekindle their romance. Eventually, Lila admits to Diego that Stan is not actually their son, but the son of her friend Trudy. Lila is genuinely pregnant with Diego's real child, and she wanted to test his paternal instincts and interests. Diego is excited to be a father, but is also devastated when the young Stan is the next victim consumed by the Kugelblitz. Lila then teams up with Five to try to understand the origins of the Kugelblitz and find a way to return to the original timeline. The duo travel to the Commission headquarters, which they find destroyed. The Commission's founder, an elderly and dying future version of Five, explains that the Kugelblitz paradox will continue to grow in power and destroy all existence if not corrected, but also warns the young Five to not save the world this time. When the Sparrows and Umbrella Academy fight once again, a mysterious stranger intervenes and releases a powerful energy blast that kills Alfonso and Jamie. Victor realizes this stranger is a now adult Harlan, and the two reconnect and bond, though Ben and the remaining Sparrows demand Harlan be turned over to them as a vengeful peace offering. The Umbrella Academy refuses to sacrifice Harlan and discovers that when Sissy died years ago, the grieving young Harlan released a burst of energy so large that it killed all of the Academy's mothers, creating the paradoxical Kugelblitz. Knowing Harlan's volatile powers made him a threat and target to both the Sparrows and the Umbrella Academy, Victor chooses to absorb Harlan's powers into himself. Harlan then reveals to Allison the truth about him killing all of the Umbrella Academy's mothers. Knowing that their mothers' deaths caused the time paradox, which Allison blames for her daughter Claire no longer existing, Allison enacts her revenge by killing Harlan and delivering his body to the Sparrows. As the Kugelblitz grows more powerful and unstable, Lila, Sloane, and Victor work together, combining their powers to help Christopher consume the Kugelblitz and save the entire universe. But as the Sparrows and Umbrella Academy celebrate their victory, Christopher explodes and the Kugelblitz is unleashed once again, killing Faye as the others flee. As the Kugelblitz's growing power threatens to destroy existence imminently, the Sparrows and Umbrella Academy take refuge in Hotel Obsidian, where Luther and Sloane announce their plans to spend their final moments getting married. A wedding is held where all of the Hargreeves, including their adoptive father Reginald, share their potential last moments together. The alternate version of Ben bonds with his Umbrella Academy siblings, who are reminded of their grief of their version of Ben dying. The next day, Reginald reveals to all of his his adopted children that he built Hotel Obsidian around a portal to the otherworldly Hotel Oblivion, where the universe's reset button is housed. If 7 people venture into Hotel Oblivion and ring 7 special bells, the universe will be reset, and the apocalypse will be averted. Unfortunately, many of the remaining Hargreeves children have made peace with the world ending, and 5 intends to heed his older self's advice to not stop the apocalypse. In a devious plot to inspire his children, Reginald coldly murders Luther and blames it on a guardian protecting Hotel Oblivion's bells. And so, as the Kugelblitz consumes Hotel Obsidian, Reginald and his children flee into Hotel Oblivion to avenge their fallen brother. But before entering the alternate world, Reginald also kills Klaus, deeming his son to have outlived his usefulness. In Hotel Oblivion, 5 recalls that while drunk at Luther's wedding, he had witnessed Allison striking a mystery deal with Reginald. Allison confesses that she made a deal with her father to manipulate her siblings into hitting the reset button in the hopes of reuniting with her lost daughter Claire, unaware that Reginald's plan would involve the murder of Luther. In the afterlife, Luther reveals the truth about his death, urging Klaus to resurrect himself to expose Reginald's villainy. The surviving Hargreeves children battle Hotel Oblivion's guardians before discovering 7 places for them each to stand to activate the universe's reset button. As they do, their powers are drained, leaving them all on the verge of death. The Hargreeves children then realize that it has been Reginald's plan from the very beginning to orchestrate his children across various timelines to this very moment, where he can absorb their powers and reset the universe to his control. Wanting to protect the siblings she has over the family she has lost, Allison chooses to murder Reginald and thwart his plan, then presses the reset button to restore order to the timeline. In the restored timeline, Luther is alive and no longer has an ape torso, though his beloved Sloane is missing and all of the Hargreeves are now without their powers. Allison is reunited with both her present-day daughter and her 1960s husband Ray, who now lives in the present. And despite Allison having killed Reginald to thwart his master plan, his plan is still seemingly somewhat successful, as this universe has Reginald alive and well, his company a massive global power, and his late wife Abigail by his side. In Season 4 of The Umbrella Academy, 6 years have passed for the Hargreeves siblings living in their new timeline without their powers. Allison is a struggling actress raising her daughter Claire, though Ray has left them both. Klaus now lives with Allison and her daughter, though now that he's lost his death-defying powers, he's become extremely paranoid about dying. Luther is a stripper, 5 is in the CIA, Victor manages a bar in Nova Scotia, Ben is released from prison after a stint for crypto fraud, and Diego and Lila now have 3 children, though their relationship has become strained. Working for the CIA, 5 has infiltrated the Keepers, a support group for people who believe they are stuck in the wrong timeline. At one meeting, 5 encounters a disguised Lila, who loves her new life as a mother, but still misses her past as a time-hopping assassin. The married couple Jean and Jean Thibodeau then give a presentation to the Keepers, explaining that the faulty timelines are due to the Umbrella Effect, caused by the misadventures of the Hargreeves siblings. They believe they can restore the timeline by cleansing the Hargreeves. A stranger named Cy Grossman seeks out the Hargreeves for help in finding his daughter Jennifer, a member of the Keepers who has gone missing. 5 then reveals a jar of marigold that could restore the siblings' powers, though most of the siblings refuse, content with finally living normal lives. And so Ben tricks all of them into drinking the marigold, restoring their powers, and even giving Lila laser vision. The Hargreeves' search for Jennifer leads them to the strange town of New Grumpson, where every single inhabitant wants to kill them. The siblings find Jennifer and escape their pursuers, but upon leaving New Grumpson, they are attacked by Jean and Jean, who capture the mysterious Jennifer for themselves. As Jennifer is ripped away from the Hargreeves, she and Ben touch, exchanging a mysterious form of energy. While trying to find and save Jennifer once again, 5 discovers that every time he tries to teleport, he ends up inside a train station in New Grumpson. And so 5 and Lila board a train to further investigate, which takes them back to the original future timeline, where 5 spent 40 years alone in an apocalyptic wasteland. 5 and Lila flee the apocalypse and return to their siblings, where Diego reveals he has raided the Keepers' headquarters and found evidence linking Jennifer to Ben's death in their original timeline, which none of the Hargreeves siblings seem to remember any details of. The siblings reluctantly seek answers from their father Reginald, and he reveals that he built New Grumpson Thompson to protect Jennifer from them, and that she is more powerful than all of the Hargreeves combined. Reginald then helps the siblings regain the memories they've lost from the original timeline. It turns out, while out on a mission as the Umbrella Academy all those years ago, the teenage Ben discovered that Reginald had confined the young Jennifer, and after touching, they exchanged the same mysterious energy. It was then Reginald himself who shot both Ben and Jennifer to death and erased the memories of the other Hargreeves to cover up his actions. In the present, Reginald's wife Abigail explains that decades ago she created a new energy, the Marigold, which gave the Hargreeves their powers, but had also inadvertently created an opposite energy, the Durango, which is inside Jennifer. Ben is like a lock and Jennifer the key, and if their Marigold and Durango energies ever combine, it will bring forth the Cleanse, which would destroy all of humanity. Reginald pleads with his children to kill Ben or Jennifer to ensure the Cleanse doesn't happen. Unfortunately, the unaware Ben has rescued Jennifer from Jean and Jean, and the pair run away together. As they grow closer romantically, they share a passionate kiss that causes energy to burst from them, officially beginning the Cleanse. Elsewhere, Five and Lila think they can prevent the Cleanse by using the train to travel back in time to the original timeline, and preventing Ben and Jennifer from ever meeting. Unfortunately, they face many setbacks on their mission, which sees them trapped for over 6 years in their time-hopping adventure. The two grow closer romantically, even sharing a kiss, before Five discovers instructions from another version of himself with details on how to return home. Elsewhere, Sai arrives to help Jean, and the Keepers thwart the Umbrella Academy and ensure the Cleanse takes place. As the Keepers capture Ben and Jennifer, Sai reveals himself to be Reginald's wife Abigail in disguise. She then kills Jean and assumes their identity, secretly working to fulfill her own master plan. Abigail reveals to Reginald that she is bringing forth the Cleanse as penance for her lifetime of sins at her husband's side, then allows the growing energy of Ben and Jennifer to consume her and Reginald. In the end, the Hargreeves siblings all come together to save Ben and Jennifer and stop the Cleanse. As they infiltrate the Keeper's headquarters, Ben and Jennifer's energy begins to combine them into one being. Five discovers that his and his siblings' Marigold energy is what always leads to timelines collapsing and apocalypses occurring, and so the siblings decide to sacrifice themselves, reconciling as a family in the home they grew up in and using the Cleanse to erase themselves from all timelines, restoring the Earth to peace and order. In the restored timeline, Lila's parents raise the orphan children of Allison, Diego, and Lila, with everyone happy and content. As the series comes to a close, the family plays together in the park, where 8 new marigolds begin to bloom.